Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak, and it's now some 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. It's time for us to have a conversation about the state of governance in 2025, and also importantly to speak about the developments with the cabinet, what they passed yesterday to establish the National Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund. In studio I have Geoffrey Wandeto from Teto constituency. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, viewers.
You've been gone for some time.
Yes, I've been away for some time from this show, but I've not been away from the political scene or from the work that the people of Teto elected me to do. Yeah, but I'm happy to be back.
I think the last time we spoke was way before the Mbeere North by-election.
Yes, I think so.
And a lot of developments came from there.
Exactly.
Senator Veronica Maina, good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
Welcome back from Kampala. How was it?
Kampala was very good. We were able to kujipima na the other nations, the other regions.
Yes, how did you fare?
Kenya fared very well.
Yeah.
We've won some medals.
Yes.
We lost some. Volleyball team did us very well.
Yeah.
Netball team also.
Yeah.
Basketball, we were number 2. Uganda has a heavy team.
Okay.
So we had a great time in Kampala. And by the way, Kampala has grown. Uganda has really grown.
Yeah.
A lot of infrastructure, modernized airports. It looked really good. I was very impressed with what they're doing there.
What did you play?
I played basketball, and
nice.
I was a backup for netball.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Congratulations. Wandeto, you didn't go to Kampala?
I didn't manage to go to Kampala due to other.
Oh, you don't like to play?
You know, slim people are not always too fit. Participate in the games.
But I thought it worked out quite a bit.
No, I mean I would have. I'm a marathoner, so I can run a half marathon.
Okay.
So most likely that's what I would have participated in. But there was some event in the constituency and in family that prevented me from traveling to Kampala.
Okay.
But congratulations to Team Kenya. Congratulations to Veronica for being a backup to netball and basketball.
Basketball, I'm a team player.
She needs to produce.
I'm actually captain in Senate for the women basketball.
Oh, wow.
I will
get the talents you never see.
But I'll be requesting Veronica to produce a video evidence of
her playing.
of her playing.
By the way, we did very well in athletics. and it felt, I have the videos, don't worry. They are chronicled even in Parliament. We did very well in athletics.
Okay.
So Kenya continues to be a giant in the track, in the running track. And we got some gold medals, so we're doing very well still.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask our sports team to just give us our tallies so that we can see how we're faring in this African region. But of course, we're also waiting. She's actually in studio, Sheila Lang, who is the development economist, to join the conversation. But this morning, waking up to the news of, on the Daily Nation, you'll see that the main story there is the death on highways, tragic situations that have been witnessed the past few days, including the death of Cyrus Jirongo, who now we understand veteran politician Cyrus Jirongo had dropped a friend at a Naivasha hotel shortly before he died in a road accident at Karai area on his way back to Nairobi some minutes past 2 a.m. on Saturday. According to latest accounts, an attendant at a petrol station of the former MP drove into minutes to the accident, also offered fresh details in the tragedy. And the story continues on page 7 of the Daily Nation, where you find more details. And of course, the continuing coverage of different issues, including the Kenya Junior Secondary Education Assessment, the outcome which was released on Thursday last week, as parents and schools come to terms with that, and now being told that learners open up on change of senior school pathways. Junior school graduates say their performance in exams, whose results were released last week, is informing their decisions to switch career choices. Officials say the students have a 2-week window to revise their selections ahead of grade 10 admissions next month. And so much more that is inside the paper. Karibu sana, Sheila Olang, a development economist, and it's good to have you again.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
Great, and we continue with the coverage of the different affairs. And I want us to begin by what the President and the Cabinet did yesterday, that is passing, or rather establishing the National Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund that should ideally go into informing how we will approach the next phase of development in Kenya. The target is 5 trillion shillings that will be funded through first selling or privatizing national assets, and at the same time crowdfunding from different sectors of the economy, but also outside the country. Senator Maina, let me begin with you on this one. And it started off as a conversation about going to the first world. Now we see the cabinet making a decision. What are you taking from it?
I'm looking at it in a very positive and optimistic way because I'm seeing a leadership that is moving into long-term planning. Planning that is not just in 2 minutes, in 1 month or in 2 years, but putting down policy that then guides the nation to a long-term planning, looking at how we fund the infrastructure, like the dualling of highways, because the target the president set is 2,500. And what I can say is that kilometers, that is no mean feat. It's not a small job. Mm-hmm. And what he's done is to set a target for himself. It's like you doing a performance appraisal on yourself. And first you set the targets, because at the beginning of the year you are asked, set the targets which you want to achieve within the year. And then tell us after the block of 1, 2 years or the 3 years of contracts, have you been able to achieve? It gives us a benchmark for gauging the performance of this presidency, the performance of the government. So for me, I look at it positively, because if you're dualling 2,500 kilometers, dualling that, and then 28,000 kilometers of tarmac roads, then you need to ring fence a certain fund that then helps you if you're not borrowing. And for me, the privatization, while it sounds very different, and it's a different economic agenda, and in the manner in which the government has transacted before in terms of funding the development kitty, capital expenditure. I look at it differently. Government is government. In fact, the biggest holder of economics, or the biggest driver in an economy, should be the government itself. If they can privatize today, and tomorrow they can still set themselves up with another fund and still go back into those sectors and invest in, say, if it's KPC, if it is KQ, if it is Safaricom. I mean, it means you can offload your shares, and tomorrow you can walk back and say, we want to buy back. So I think we should be more flexible. And in my own view, though I'm not an expert in economics, I think we must be flexible enough as African nations to begin thinking of how we give ourselves solutions beyond neighbors giving us solutions. So that when we say, let's stop borrowing heavily, can we see how we can resource ourselves from within what we have? Because Kenya is endowed with many resources, including some of those investments, some of those assets, they belong to the nation, and they should be able to ring fence for us our development expenditure. That's how I look at it.
Okay. Mheshimiwa Wandeto, your take from this.
Okay. Some of us are very worried about the events that are happening in this country, even this creation of the National Infrastructure Fund and the creation of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Because while these ideas have been tried in other countries, I think the most notable is Norway. And of course, the countries like Singapore and the rest have tried these ideas. These ideas thrive if you have the right foundation. As a country, some of us worry about raising all this capital without a clear framework of how it's going to be governed. Secondly, this looks like an individual's mission as opposed to national ambition. Because as a country, some of these things should be citizen-driven. As much as the executive can volunteer and propose their ideas, they need to be owned by Kenyans. What we saw this week is the president pronouncing some idea. First of all, he starts with the Singapore movement, then he says how he's going to do it, then cabinet yesterday approves. And this is, we do not know on what framework this is anchored. Some remember we had the Vision 2030. We had the Big Four agenda. we came up with the bottom-up economic transformation model. And as a country, I don't know whether we have a clear policy framework that is guiding our modernization, or we are just getting into this sort of individual sloganeering and or individual ambitions, which keeps shifting the nation's development direction from one direction to another. The third one is this fund that has been created. What we are told is that it is going to be funded by stripping off national assets. Okay, which is very, very sad, because you cannot slaughter your cow to serve a family dinner. It's not very, very clever, and sometimes we seem to be doing things that are very short. Assets that would have given us benefit long term to basically fulfill our short term ambitions. And the fourth one, we've been told that for every shilling that is going to be raised, is going to attract another 10 shillings. This is just public debt by another name, in my opinion. Basically, we have just gotten our way to improve our borrowing from the current 12 trillion, which is causing a lot of jitters, and add another 5 trillion of debt just through the back door. So basically, our total public debt is going to be maybe 17, 18 billion by the time this fund is established. And the governance framework, I thought that's what we probably would have spent time. And I know there will be time to do that in Parliament and things like that. But if you look at the environment in which we are working, and our ability as a country or even as Parliament to process issues objectively and to do proper public participation and to come up with something that is fit for purpose for the country, some of us are not very convinced. So we see this possibly as the next big scam.
Next big scam. But what then should Parliament do? Because, like you're saying, the moment you come to present it to Parliament, is Parliament incapacitated to right the wrongs that you find in there?
I think this is a major undertaking that should not just be left to Parliament. I think what we need to do is to see Treasury publishing some sort of a framework document, what is guiding this whole thing and where it fits in. For example, how will the projects to be done be evaluated? Where is the fund going to sit? We have been told it's going to be a public limited liability company. Yep. So who is going to appoint the CEO? To whom is this CEO going to answer? How will the CEO decide which projects to do? And the reason some of us are worried this could be the next big scam, because it's very easy to collect all this capital, give it to some company, and you know how parastatals, because this is going to be a parastatal technically, how parastatals are controlled in this country. And the next thing, this is the money that is going to be used to finance campaigns, is the money that is going to be used to do all manner of shenanigans in this country. So I would suggest that this being an important policy shift, it should have some broad anchoring. Even the public participation must be broader. Parliament must be allowed to debate this and actually create it in a model that works for this country. So what I expect to see is in January, this is probably going to be rushed to Parliament. The dissenting voices will not be allowed to speak, as has become a tradition in this country, and it's going to be hurriedly passed by a small bunch of parliamentarians. And the next thing, we have a wealth fund, we have an infrastructure fund, for how it's governed and how CEOs are appointed, we possibly will not have any very control. So some of us, we are worried just because of the people, or the environment in which this is being proposed.
Sheila, I'll give you a chance. Sheila, your thoughts about this, should I say, momentous occasion?
Thanks, Sam. I always find it very interesting when I sit in my perspective, listening to a bit of both sides of the aisle. Yeah. I think the senator here was, very enthusiastic and excited about this fund. And one of the first things that came to my mind was, can we first talk about governance? Can we first talk about, because there's precedence in this country about trying to do projects, right? We've done SGR, Thika Road was done. expressway was done. I mean, so it's not like it's the first time we're building anything in this country. And sometimes it's always good to reflect and think, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? And how do we fix this so that we can move forward? There's no debate that we do need infrastructure. I mean, that one is neither here nor there. So there is a need for infrastructure. As an economist, though, I will tell you that if you do not have safeguards of trying to establish public trust and good governance, then all of these ideas, great as they may be, are going to have very heavy headwinds along the way. Why do I say this? If you look at several surveys that have been done in Kenya, you can see that the mistrust, I wouldn't call it the government as much as the political class, I would clump it all at once, that is growing in terms of resources I mean, it's getting just higher and higher and higher. And so what you need to do first is not to feel hurried, right? You do due diligence. I mean, these are great ideas that I'm sure did not just come up last week or something of that nature. So you do a lot of due diligence in trying to regain some of this trust. And how do you do this? First, you cannot shy away from talking about debt and the plan for debt, number one. You cannot shy away from talking about debt and the plan for how we are going to work on our debt, because that's a big problem. When we have, now we're at 62% of our revenues, that's the share that we're just going back in to pay debt. So, I mean, we're in a lot of trouble. And two, if we don't talk about corruption and bad governance, how are we strengthening our institutions? Now, creating this fund as a limited company, it's nothing new, right? Because other countries have done it before and they've done it well, and it has worked. What lessons are we learning from that? So conceptually speaking, that's not the issue for me. The issue is, do I trust you to do this? For me, that is a big question. You tell me it will be run by a board. You tell me you will appoint this board. And this is the same country where sometimes you see appointments or positions given on the campaign trails, where, I think we saw, I forget what constituency it was, that, someone was given an ambassador job in the middle of a campaign trail. I mean, that's how we are dishing out positions sometimes. So we know that we have a problem that we need to work on. And so if we do not first fix this draining problem that we have of corruption and governance and weak institutions, then we are going to face a lot of trouble. I think the World Bank as well in their assessment talked about that when they said that, governance is one of the biggest hindrances when it comes to establishing this kind of funds. So again, might not be the worst idea, but do we trust the hurriedness and the structure, the regulation that is being set up in place? You bring up a good point about Parliament. As you saw last year, with the finance bill, that Parliament went ahead and approved a bill when Kenyans were saying no. So again, that brings the question of, is Parliament captured by the executive, and are the roles very clear? It also brings up questions like that. So if you don't get buy-in from Kenyans themselves right off the bat, then you're going to be in trouble. Even if you go to Parliament and they approve it for you the next day, Kenyans will still sit here and then they will decide for them. And if they decide without proper information from you, without proper guidance from you, then sometimes even good ideas get killed at the door, just because you're not prepared enough. So,
and what is your understanding about a limited liability company being the one that is steering the National Infrastructure Fund?
I think for models that have done this before, let's say India is one of them that has used this. It's usually to make investors feel much more comfortable. If you want to do crowdfunding, this is one of the best platforms to do it, because then you're sure as a private investor that it will be run more or less like a business. So if you want to attract a lot of crowdfunding, then this is a very good route to take in it of itself. So again, it's not like, sometimes there's misinformation that they're going to come and then they take the money and then they run it as their own private business. Not necessarily. Some people have done that and done it well. The question is, would you trust today that they would be able to run this business in a fair, free, transparent manner? I mean, that's where the big ticket item lies. But if you want to do proper crowdfunding, then yes, you will not. You'll have to do it through kind of a business shell or a business setup, and then this limited company then becomes the best way to do it.
Right, Senator. What are your thoughts about Yes, the benefit is clear. Or rather, the president has spoken about it. Is it 50 mega dams? Is it the 28,000 kilometers of road to be tarmacked? Is it the 2,500 kilometers of road to be dualed? And you were able to even explain it yourself. But what is the cost implication on Kenyans?
I wouldn't answer that question directly because it's a very technical question. It's a question that needs the actuarial scientists or experts in that field to do their projections, look at the figures, look at what is it that is going to be crowd-funded, and then answer real questions. So that's a technical question which I believe you could invite the category of the Sheilas of this world and of this country to respond to, together with the actuarial scientists. But what I would say is that I like what Sheila has raised about the issue of who you do it, can we trust? And I think one of the issues the cabinet was very clear about yesterday is that this board will be competitively appointed. And I want us to exit the lamentation so that we can join the first world countries, because I believe Kenyans are smart enough, they're brainy, they've gone to school, and they are capable of running that very competitively appointed board of that company and a CEO. And I want to see the likes of Sheila and your classmates going to ask for jobs in that board. You know why? Because you are Kenyan and you can inject what you believe in. Because for this company to work and for this fund to work, Sam, we then must have people who are accountable. And I have no question about us having a transparent model that leaves everybody with a smile on their face, not with a frown on their face. I think what one of the things that was addressed in that cabinet dispatch is that there will be a robust policy framework. And I want to challenge my colleague here, together with myself and all my colleagues in Parliament, that let's not have an attitude of being defeated, that something is coming to the floor of the House and you don't agree with it. It's your responsibility to raise that objection and your responsibility to push it until it brings out the kind of a framework that you're looking for. Because you see, Sam, Cabinet projects and gives the vision for what they want to do. It forms the basis of a policy. That policy is the bedrock of legislation and frameworks that will be approved by Parliament to run these funds. So for me, I would say, let everybody wake up. Parliamentarians, wake up. Kenyans in the public participation, wake up. When this framework is being done, engage. So that, because what I have found...
That framework, what design should it take?
The framework?
Yes.
Accountability, transparent.
No, I'm asking, what should it be? Because establishing an LLC, is it a bill? Is it regulations? Is it just a policy paper?
Part of it might be a bill because of some of the funds, but part of it will be under the public finance management. Because we fall within that framework. The anchor framework is the public finance management strategy that we have as a nation. So part of it will be regulation, part of it will be legislation. So whatever the cabinet pushes to Parliament, anything that is pushed to Parliament, whether it's subsidiary legislation or whether it's regulations that are being anchored on certain acts of Parliament, whatever it is, or even a bill, whatever it is that will be pushed to Parliament, is the responsibility of Parliament to ensure that it's meeting the standards that are put in the Constitution insofar as management of finance is concerned. And we shouldn't take, I don't like the approach that my colleague has taken, my good friend here has taken, because he's already saying it will be done in a certain way. Why are you speculative? Don't be speculative. Wait for it and meet it as it comes and engage as it comes. And don't be afraid. Engage with it. Make it better for Kenyans so that we don't have, even as Parliament, we can account to the public and say, we have made a regulation that is befitting management of this fund. And he has used a good example, Norway. I visited Norway and I found they have this sovereign wealth fund where they invest, they have excess, and these are the countries that are lending other nations. We need to start saying we are confident enough about ourselves. We get more confidence in our government structure, and Kenyans need to decide, Sam, This corruption story, while we may entertain it here on the media, we need to understand that it's the responsibility of each of us. Do you know, it is not only government that has been accused of being corrupt. If you look at the roads, Sam, and I'm not oversimplifying this debate, there is a culture that we need to work against in this country. And Kenyans need to reach a point where we say, even if you are giving me tender and procurement, don't do it the wrong way. Let's do it the right way. If the private sector changes the way we are doing the tendering, the procuring with the government, we all change the approach and the attitude and the culture. So that when we talk about EACC, we talk about what it's supposed to be doing among the Kenyans, then we know we are building our institutions by also doing a behavior change.
Okay.
We have a problem with behavior change.
Behavior change.
Yeah.
Many issues that have come up here, from governance, corruption, to transparency of how this will be established. Last week we spoke to the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, Senator, and he said that he does not think that the National Infrastructure Fund will require a bill. It can be done through regulations because the anchoring legislation is the PFM Act. You have mentioned that part of it will require a bill. We'll talk about that because...
Based on what you'll be presented.
Okay.
Because
now we'll
Parliament...
talk about that. Just hold on. We'll talk about that based on what should happen.
Yes.
And then you can see how that looks like. What are your thoughts? You can text us at 22422 or write to us on X at Citizen TV Kenya at Sam Gituku. The hashtag is Citizen Daybreak. We're back in a moment.